You know, I thought after finishing all the Trails games, it'd be a good idea to go outside, get some sun, touch the grass, but ironically enough, it's the one time that it decides to rain, or at least start raining, so let's go back inside and talk about Trails into Reverie. Oh, and spoilers. Duh. Ever since Trails from Zero, and really even the Sky trilogy, Falcom has been creating threads that find their end in Trails into Reverie. And the game is honestly explosive at times with some very surprising reveals. The game features 3 main protagonists, and I think we can all agree that it's really C's game at the end of the day. And I honestly thought C would be Cedric because of the events of CS4 at the end, and well, his name starts with C, and so I thought it went with the whole kind of theme that they had in the first 2 Cold Steel games, but was I wrong? When Rufus was revealed to be C, I had a bit of a reaction. What?
You've grown, Eustace.
Now, some of you mentioned in comments and during the live chat of the streams that you managed to use your detective skills to kind of suss him out and figure out who he was, but I opted for a more classical Neanderthal approach because, let's be honest, I'm not that observant when it comes to these Trails games. But I do want to dig into this part of the game just for a moment because it's amazing to me at how Rufus is very self-aware of how his actions in past games were some truly anime-level villain stuff. And so it makes sense that he starts this game looking like a villain and dons the name of Cold Steel 1's enigmatic leader of a terrorist organization, the Imperial Liberation Front. He knows he's a bad guy. He knows he's done bad things and he's not shying away from it. He takes ownership over that. And he even says so during a conversation with Lapis. And so it leaves one wondering, can he ever really be good? Can he be redeemed? Shout out to Lapis, by the way. She was a really cool kind of mirror and sounding board for Rufus and just helping him through his process of finding himself and his identity and his worth. Just really cool character, and Lapis on her own just stands tall, even though she's not tall, but you get the idea. You know, one of my favorite scenes in Captain America Civil War is when Bucky Barnes and Steve Rogers are flying to a Hydra base closer to the end of the movie, and Bucky is reflecting on his violent and dark past, and he asks Steve, am I even worth saving? Now, I don't know what it is about tortured souls in narratives, but I'm drawn to those sort of things in fiction. And the moment that I saw Rufus asking these sorts of questions, I found myself softening a little bit on this guy who caused a lot of problems in the previous games. And I began to feel bad for him, and I was rooting for him by the end of his arc. And it's seriously well done, Falcom, on that regard. And I think that we can all agree that Trails into Reverie is a game that is very much focused on redemption, specifically Rufus's. And he achieves his redemption in a way that's true to the Cold Steel games by dying, sort of. Honestly, when I got to that part at the end of the game where it made it seem like Rufus was doing this heroic act while making himself look like a villain to the rest of the world, basically, or I guess just Zemuria, I thought, man, this is kind of a tragic send-off for this character, but it makes sense. He's going to die a hero, but he's going to look like the villain. It's almost similar to the boss's route in Metal Gear Solid 3, but I'm not going to get into that game here. And to a degree, I kind of wish Rufus had died in the game. I think his sacrifice would have meant so much, and I think that it would have opened up some really cool character development for certain characters. But as Kondo has learned from the past, that killing off characters you love so much makes it hard to bring them back for future installments. I mean, look at how they treated Luve when we got the little flashback things with the Hamel stuff, and cool, I guess, but we didn't get a 3D model of him, but that's a whole other story. But I think the moment where Lloyd rescues Rufus works. I can't really explain why, but I remember watching the scene and just being kind of okay with it. I think it's one that we all watch and we might be able to relate to it to a certain degree, because when you think about it, Rufus's story is relatable probably on some level for all of us. You know, I don't know what's in your past, but I know we all have things that we've done that we aren't exactly proud of. You know, we haven't really tried to bring about the end of the world in an anime level scale. But we sometimes wonder, you know, can we even be redeemed? Can we even be good people after this. And I think Rufus's journey that ends here is a very human one, and one that I believe is probably one of the best arcs Falcom has written into their game so far. Rufus getting a second chance is a message to us all that we can be better, and all we need to really do is get up and move forward relentlessly. So again, Falcom, seriously, hats off. Well done. Now, Reverie, much like the rest of the Trails series thus far, is a very ambitious title. I mean, Falcom has been weaving these stories together for the last, 10 games? And in this penultimate chapter, you have 3 characters coming together for what is essentially the conclusion to the Crossbell duology, the Cold Steel arc, and some of the stuff from Sky. And so apart from playing as C, you'll be playing as Lloyd and Rean in their individual pursuits to stop Supreme Leader Rufus, all while uncovering some machinations that Ouroboros has set into motion. Although it's not only just Ouroboros at play here, but we'll get to that a little bit later. And I have to say that despite my adoration for Lloyd, I felt like his route was the weakest of the 3. It's not that it was boring per se. I just found Rean and C's routes far more compelling, that whenever I got to Lloyd's route, I was like, cool. Here we go again, I guess. And plus, I mean, C's route had some great emotional moments, whereas Rean's route gave us something that honestly I've been waiting for since Cold Steel 3. Peak Kurt Vander. Seriously, the guy finally gets some moments to shine in this game, and it was especially after his dad knocks him off the cliff and he comes back up and he's ready to fight, and I'm just like, Kurt, let's go, my boy. But the one thing that kind of bothered me about how this story, or really where this story went, is with the whole introduction of Elysium, AI, cyborgs, the use of like multiverse, time warp sort of convergent stuff with the Shmelga Rean. Admittedly, I'm not a very smart guy, and at the very least, I'm totally not observant, especially when it comes to this series. But when I finished this game, I had to do some digging to make sure that I even understood what Elysium was and what all the stuff with the Shmelga Rean was like and what was going on with that. And I had to even look up like how did Rean like summon the Tyrfing S like he did with Valimar earlier in the game. Like there's just some moments that happened that left me scratching my head and wondering if I had maybe missed something or just wasn't paying attention, or maybe I was missing a memory or something like that in the Reverie Corridor. So maybe someone can be so kind as to help clear that up in the comments a little bit later. Far as I know, as Elysium was this AI that was trying to restore balance, so to speak, to the world, and that's why it's pulled in a Shmelga Rean, and there was all this stuff with the androids, but that was Ouroboros. See, that's the problem with Reverie, is I feel like the story gets a little too convoluted and clunky with trying to do these different things, that honestly, anytime AI is put into a story now, I kind of check out. The latest Mission Impossible was the same way. I check out. It just seems like, and especially with the multiverse stuff that I feel like has been played to death by this point, it just kind of, it loses me at this point. And so that part of the story really kind of took me out of it, and it just lost me. And so while Reverie contains some truly incredible character moments, I felt that the story just really wasn't consistent in regards to quality, but who knows? That could be due to the 3 routes thing. It could be due to Elysium. Maybe it's due to the information being behind memories that you unlock. It could have been maybe I was finally starting to feel burnout from playing all these games almost back to back for the last 2 years. I don't know. But for me, I just didn't think it was an evenly baked cake of JRPG goodness. It was still good, but there are still parts that were a little lumpy. And also, can we please stop it with the mind controlling mask and curses already? Can we just let Crossbell stay liberated and let these people just be? Like, these people have been put through enough. Good grief. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about what was easily my favorite part of Reverie, and I've already mentioned it, and that is the Reverie Corridor. Trails in the Sky the Third is up there for me as one of my favorites in the series, and Reverie, it's almost like Reverie looked at this game and said, hey, what if we took that dungeon crawler aspect and the amount of people you can play as and have in your party and crank that up to 11 with some quality of life changes? Because anytime I got to go to the Reverie Corridor, I'd spend as much time in there as I possibly could, unlocking doors. Thankfully, no traumatic doors this time around, like in Sky the Third. I spent time fishing, playing Pom Pom Party or Vantage Masters or Magical Girl Elisa, unlocking different memories, unlocking different characters, which, by the way, unlocking McBurn at one point was pretty wild. He was a lot of fun to take into the Reverie Corridor and try different builds out and just see what kind of, just how much damage I could put out. The Reverie Corridor is just so cool. And honestly, the Reverie Corridor is easily one of my favorite parts of the game. It's something I wish more games would kind of implement to some degree. It's just a really dope concept that I thoroughly enjoyed. You go into this corridor, you mix and match your builds, try out different things, experiment with the orbments, and just see what you can do and what you can pull off. And it's just fun. And the wealth of side content in there was just beautiful. Loved it. On top of that, you have missions you can complete that would unlock certain items that would let you level up quicker. Maybe there were some things that would help you make your build a little bit better with the different quartz or things like that. Or it would unlock certain skits at the end of battles if you have certain members in the party that were just kind of reminiscent of the end battle skits from the Tales of series that I love so much. Whatever happened to that series, by the way? Are they still making games? And so the Reverie Corridor was just super cool. I loved it. I could gush about it and go on and on and on, but I won't for the sake of time. And when I think back to Reverie, though, I can't help but think it's this type of celebration of the series in some way, especially considering the massive cast of characters you get to use in the Reverie Corridor. The game just hits on a lot of similar notes as Trails in the Sky the Third for me, except it's greatly missing a certain heretic hunter of the Geralt's Ritter. Seriously, Falcom, bring my boy back. But at the end of the day, one of the main key aspects that makes these Trails games so good is the characters. And this game gives you more of some just truly hilarious and touching moments with the characters. And even the new characters, Swin, Nadia, Lapis, they all stand on their own. They're all intriguing. They're all great. They're fun to play as. And they're just a joy to watch interact on the screen. And even the inclusion of the memories, getting you more backstory with characters or side ventures with characters, even a look at the future in future games. It's just all around, it's just a really well-made, well-put-together game that is just a joy to play. It may not be perfect, but it's still pretty darn good. But speaking of the memories and looking at some of the beyond the Reverie Corridor memories just had me excited. It made me wonder, what's up with Ren at her new school? Who is this beautiful bracer with a Zen that seems like she can really hold her own and could really do some damage? And who is this mysterious swordswoman that knocked Rean down a few pegs? What's her story all about? I know the motto of this channel is play Trails to find out, but needless to say, I am definitely intrigued. Now, like I do in most of my reviews, I've left a lot out, both for the sake of time, but also because, as my chat will tell you during the live streams, I've got a bad case of goldfish brain. And I also finished this game back in February or March of this year, and so it's been a long time since I finished the game, and I've played other games in the meantime, and I've just been busy with life, and so that's why there hasn't been a review for this game until now, and so I've probably forgotten a lot of stuff. So if there's anything that I missed or something that I glossed over, let me know in the comments down below and we can continue the conversation there. But overall, just to reiterate, I think Reverie is a great game filled with some truly great character moments that really just elevate this series as one of my favorites of all time. But I couldn't also help feel that we've been down some of these roads before. It's not to say Lloyd's route was boring per se. It just pales in comparison to C's route. And as much as I like Class 7 and Rean, I think it's time to move on to something new and some new characters. I think, honestly, Trails into Reverie could have been just about C as the main character, and it still would have been a really good game. And we could have had Lloyd and Rean and them kind of weaving in and out of the story, but I think if it would have just focused on them, might have been a tighter experience and might have been a little bit more of a cohesive one and consistent one in that regard. Now, this channel has gone through a bit of a rebrand over the last few months since my podcast ended back in January or February, and I really appreciate everyone that has stuck around, especially those of you that have been with me on this journey since Trails in the Sky first chapter back in 2022. It's been a ride. It's been a ride. And I appreciate y'all sticking with me. I appreciate y'all, still checking out the videos, showing up to the streams. It's just a great community, and I appreciate y'all being there. Now, if you're new, we've been playing Legend of Nayuta Boundless Trails here on the streams on this channel, so why not stop on by during a stream? I typically stream on Mondays and Wednesdays. You can go check out all the previous streams on the channel here in the playlist. Now, like I said before, the countdown to Daybreak has begun. I'm greatly looking forward to it, especially since the demo released and I played both the prologue and chapter 1 here on the channel, and oh my goodness. Trails Through Daybreak is shaping up to be probably one of my favorites. We'll see. It's a little early still, but the impression from the prologue in chapter 1 is very, very strong, and I'm very excited to play it. And when the game comes out, we'll definitely be streaming it here on the channel, so definitely hit the subscribe button if you want more Trails related content, if you want to hang out in the streams and interact and those sorts of things. But with that being said, those are my thoughts on Trails Into Reverie. Again, if I missed anything, leave a comment down below and we'll talk about it there. Consider hitting the subscribe button if you want more Trails related content. If you like this review, hit the like button and leave a comment down below. And until next time, thank you for watching and happy trails.